Well, I know you see. Hey guys, how's it going? It is I, the real Randy Chavez, coming at you today with a Veve OMI update video, with Dashi and with Foster, celebrating this. Well, you don't really do Thanksgiving holiday in Canada, right?
So we do, but our Thanksgiving is in October.
Oh, okay, so you had it
Yeah,
already.
so it was last month because we're cooler than you guys. So like we do things ahead of schedule, and then it's just like whatever.
Is it the same? Like, there's like, oh, hey, this is where we give thanks because we're alive and where we came from, and
Yeah, basically. Yeah, basically. So like similar to like how you guys have like Independence Day on like July 4th, and we have like Canada Day on July 1st. It's like both are like celebrating like the Dominion, but like just at different times. It's kind of like the exact same thing. So but
so
everyone just assumes that Thanksgiving everywhere is the time that you guys have it because American Thanksgiving there's like a ton of like sporting events and all this stuff happens and Black Friday, and for us it's just kind of a day. So no one cares.
the do you guys have like clapback Thanksgiving as well, the same that we do here?
Clapback Thanksgiving, is that like what is that? I don't even want to guess. What is that?
So it's when people post all like the clapbacks that happen on Thanksgiving, where like Aunt Susan will be like, "Oh, you still at that job?" Like she's all like, like condescending and shit, and be like you still don't know who your third baby daddy is, like the clapback. And
Okay. No, yeah, we don't do that. We don't do
they
that.
put, oh god, it's hysterical. Uh, there was a meme I saw, which like Touche to the meme hit me, where you go to Thanksgiving dinner and everyone says, "Oh, it's Mister Crypto. How's all the millions working out for you?" Did you have any? Was that experience anything with you had?
Um, so we didn't do much for Thanksgiving this year because my grandparents are kind of like at it like an old enough age now where we want to make sure that everyone stays safe. So we didn't really do too much with the entire extended family, and so no, there wasn't too much of that. Like we used to have gatherings of like 20, 25 people.
Yeah.
But we haven't done that over the last couple of years just because of stuff that's been going on. So yeah, no, we didn't do too much, but yeah, like my dad owns OMI, my mom doesn't. Mostly because I'm just gonna take care of my mom when
Yeah.
OMI gets to what it's gonna take care of, and I'll take care of my dad too. But I was like, hey, you have some disposable income if you want to invest. But yeah, like he all he knows about it is basically like, hey, my son is obsessed with this thing and believes in it, so I believe in my son, so I'm going to invest in it. So that was good enough for him. So yeah, I think he's got like 500,000 OMI or maybe a little bit more or whatever.
Nice.
So, good for him. And, I'm happy that he picked up his bag, which was just more so to, like I said, it'll just be chump change for him kind of walking around and doing things moving forward. And I'll be able to hopefully pay off their mortgages and stuff one day. So
So
that's the master plan.
I hope you got a little lucky with your dad, because some people's parents, like, I don't want to say disown them, but they think their kids are losers. And fair point. Some of us are losers, but
Yeah.
some of us are. I wouldn't put in that particular category. Like back in the day, people were like, okay, you go to work or school, you get a job and you stay there for 30 years, and then hopefully you retire before you die. And now it's more of the people is, I think the study's done that if you are staying at your job, at one job for more than I think 3 years, you are losing money, because the every time you move years, if you move an average of 2 years, you can get like an extra like 20% raise. Where
Mm-hmm.
if you're there for like 3 years, you're doing like maybe 5% a year, like maybe if that. At least in America. So your dad, is he younger, or is he just a little more open minded than a lot of the peers that
You know
he?
what? Yeah, that's a really interesting question. It's never really something that I've talked about before, but essentially, so I call him my dad, but he's really just my stepdad, but he's my dad. And so he came into my life when I was 6, and he was pretty young at the time. He was 27, so he's actually 51 right now, and I'm 31. So like he's young, like he's like
Uh,
not old, right? So I think he has that benefit a little bit more than maybe, you know, a 60-year-old or a 65-year-old. Like my mom's, you know, getting up there in her 60s there. So I think that he has that benefit of being a little bit younger. And he was also a traditional comic book collector. He was big into DC fandom. He loves Superman and everything like that. So I think it was kind of a little bit more of a natural transition for him to kind of understand the concept of digital, because he's been going to Comic Cons. He collects comic books. So for him, it's just the premise of collecting in a new medium that he's been, you know, a little bit open-minded to, because I have a younger brother who's 10 years younger than me, and he's in game development in college. So he's doing game design and stuff like that. So I think that, you know, he's used to having those conversations about the way that technology is moving and the way the gaming is moving. And he works in automotive, so he works with a lot of younger guys who are also kind of into, you know, video games or these other types of things. So I think for him, it wasn't too far of a stretch, but it's definitely, you know, easy to understand how maybe for other people who have parents that come from maybe more traditional backgrounds or don't know a lot about collecting or anything like that, or aren't big on, you know, social media and things like that, where looking at a project like this or an opportunity, it can seem a little foreign. And, you know, and to be honest, like I look, even, you know, knowing what I know about myself now, even if someone had told me about Bitcoin back in like 2012, I probably would have been like, no, I don't need this like fancy internet currency money thingy. Like that's dumb. Like, no, I'm not interested in that. And so I think it's really interesting right now to have conversations with colleagues and family who, you know, they understand the premise behind it, but maybe they don't think that it'll be adopted, or some of them just think it's absolutely crazy. But it's going to be, you know, kind of an interesting period over the next few years, where as this technology is adopted, as the major corporations really move towards, you know, the metaverse and Web3, you know, to be at the forefront of something is just really incredible. So it's going to be fun to be surrounded by people who, you know, everyone that's in this chat right now, probably, you know, to an extent, you know, you're a visionary in your own right. You know, you see the potential of something, and you're putting your money where your mouth is. So it's going to be fun to see how it plays out.
I didn't think about this up until you mentioned it. I don't know if it was a play, I think, and it had to do with Helen Keller. And Helen Keller is the person that taught Helen Keller sign language. Had you some sign language they can't see, and you do the shapes of the hand signals in the palm of their hand. And the family was saying, like, how, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, how is this gonna translate? And then eventually it just clicked. And then, okay, now that they understand it, now that Helen understands it, goes and everything flooded in at once. I feel like in that same way, the reason why most people just don't understand the technology of blockchain in general, and I feel like I don't have the gift of, I would say, like, persuasion, where I can, or the gift of speech where I can eloquently say exactly what it is in like an explain like I'm five way. So hopefully as other people do that, they can be like, oh, I understand the technology now, and now I feel much more comfortable with it.
Yeah, and you know what? It's interesting to see, because, you know, every so often I'll see something pop up on mainstream media. You know, a company will make an acquisition, or you know, an organization will make a move, or whatever the case may be. You know, I think one of the biggest kind of bat signal moments for me was, you know, when Facebook rebranded to Meta. Like, you need these kind of mainstream shifts and adoption to take place for the average person who isn't, you know, involved in these circles already, to start to be onboarded and find out about these things. And so it gets me really excited to see, you know, when Instagram and, you know, and TikTok and Twitter and all these companies are planning to, you know, integrate, you know, NFT PFP verification for their collectibles. And people don't realize, like, we saw what happened with Reddit, you know, last month with you know, 3.3 million, you know, digital collectibles being purchased, and people not even realizing that, you know, they're purchasing digital avatars for being a part of this. And it's really just gonna, for some people, it's like that. It's, you flip a switch and it just hits them. But some other people, like, you're just gonna have to beat them down consistently over a period of time, where people just are gonna get to the point where they cave. And I think kind of how it looks for Veve and what we're likely to see, you know, over the next maybe 12 to 24 months is, you know, now that we've seen the first iteration of the Veveverse and we know the gamification is coming, you know, it's not going to be Veve inherently that onboards people. Like we live in this kind of echo chamber where, we're on Twitter and we assume everyone knows about Veve and OMI because everyone that we interact with knows about Veve and OMI. And I see people posting all the time. They'll be like, "Oh, OMI's trending or Veve's trending," but it's like it's trending for you. It's not trending on Twitter. It's just trending in your social circle. But the really cool thing about that is that you don't need Veve to be the thing, the light bulb that onboards people. What we're really counting on in this regard, at least in my opinion, is it's going to be companies like Disney that are going to do that. It's going to be, and we saw that uptick that we received, during the Disney Golden Moments drop of, just 12 months ago last year, November 2021. And it's going to kind of be the same thing when the Metaverse comes out. These IP branded worlds. I was speaking with Kelly, the Veve Fox, on the Paul Barron show earlier this week. And that was really, he asked me, what is the thing that you're most excited about over the next 12 months when it comes to kind of the whole Veveverse? And for me, it's IP branded worlds, because realistically, if, in a hypothetical world, an IP branded world that we do have is Disney, and we have a Disneyverse. Well, I went to Disney when I was in Anaheim for Decon, and I saw how many people were there just for the sheer enjoyment of being there. People of all ages, of all socioeconomic statuses, all walks of life, were all coming together for this joy and their fandom that brings them together. And really, it's going to be, Disney creating something like this and then advertising it to their user base that's going to bring people onto Veve. People that like Lamborghini, or people that like Star Trek, or people that like DC. It's going to be all these licenses that just onboard new people onto the marketplace that is Veve. And then Veve will, of course, do some marketing as well. But it's just really interesting that we have, so many resources to rely on to kind of grow our project. And just one tweet from Marvel to their 10 million followers on Twitter, or whatever the case may be, and then instantly you're just opening up a whole new world of demographics that didn't know about you previously.
There's a time. Oh, it was Thursday night, Thursday night. A bunch of us went to downtown Disney. Were you there? Did you get there on Thursday?
So I was at Disneyland on Thursday.
Okay.
My wife and I went there for about 12 hours, and then we left.
Oh,
we left shortly before the fireworks. It was a little chillier than we had anticipated, and the wife wasn't quite dressed for the weather. So we, with her being pregnant, we wanted to make sure that she was staying warm. So we headed out just before the fireworks at, I think, about 9:00. But it was an incredible experience, and then we headed back to the hotel room. But it's a great area. Anaheim is beautiful. I'd never been before, and so it was really nice to kind of stay right in the core, right beside the convention center, and just be able to hang out with so many people. It's nice to see you again, as always, and rest of the Veve fam, all the other content creators, the artists, the Veve team. It was just one rager of a party. It was great.
it was great. Yeah. Thankfully, we had bits of time where there weren't parties, so we could nap. Including me falling over once. I think I took a couple second nap while I was down there. That was good.
Oh, geez, I saw that video.
That was great.
You owned it like a champion, though.
Yeah, it doesn't show it in the video, but obviously there's like a stage where I fell, and there was like a platform where you couldn't see like the first 3 feet of me, so I like disappeared. So when I got up, I held like my beer and my water in both hands, like, yeah, and everyone was like, yeah. That was fun. That was exciting. So you mentioned Meta before, and I did a video earlier this week that highlighted the fact that Meta had said they would change up. They're paying about, I think, $4 billion a quarter for their Metaverse now, and they'll change it up to $25 billion a year next year, and they'll sustain that for probably the rest of the decade, which would put them at about $250 billion spending fee for their Metaverse by the end of the decade. Typically, you don't spend billions of dollars, much less $250 billion, unless there's going to be a sizable return. Like Tesla did $25 billion over the course of its lifetime. The Apple did their iPhone; they spent $3.6 billion on it. Because typically, what happens is they take the profits of their first product, and then they use that to pay for any extensions. So how big do you think the Metaverse will be in general, not just Metas, but the Metaverse at large, when you have one company that's going to put $250 billion into it by the end of the decade?
It's insane, and it's so hard to put just a specific monetary number on it, but it's I think the best kind of correlation is what the money itself represents, not just in the return of money, but what they believe that the user base that's associated with that. Because if you figure, if they figure the average person is going to spend $5 or $10 on the metaverse or whatever the case may be, like how many users do you need in order to offset the amount of money that you're spending just to break even, right? And so that's what I think is pretty incredible. I think that, there's been different articles. I know Dan Schawbel, the New York Times bestselling author, who's a big advocate for the Veve community. He's doing a lot of research into Web3 and the metaverse, and there's a lot of numbers floating around there. But I think even countries are talking about, in Asian regions, the APAC region, they're talking about how the metaverse will be a multi-trillion-dollar industry, and I don't, for any stretch of the imagination, to think that it wouldn't be the case. And I think we look at that really big number, but when we realize that there'll be a ton of metaverses that pop up, and a ton of them will have a different use case, but the ones that will always be successful and withstand the test of time aren't going to be the ones that get you in the door. They're going to be the ones that keep you there once you're there. Because anyone can get you to come in the door and check things out for 30 seconds. That's totally fine. But what is going to keep you there once you're gone? And I think that the phases that Veve is going through to release the metaverse is why they're doing it in such an important way to, release your showroom in Q1, start with the accessories to start to branch things out, then grow the metaverse by giving you some IP branded worlds, Veve City. And then, in Q3, like, hey, now we're going to give you custom avatars and start to allow you to focus on those things as well. And then by Q4, adding in, full-fledged gamification to, everything that you're doing in the space. It's just, they're working at it in a very, a linear direction, but it's very smart. It's like a conveyor belt, right? You need to put the first piece together in order to get the rest of it to function correctly. So, I figure if the metaverse is going to be a multi-trillion-dollar industry, even if Veve is able to capture a fraction of 1% of that, we could easily be looking at, $10 to $50 billion in valuation just for the Veve side of things. And then, of course, we can go down the rabbit hole of what we think that will mean for the OMI token and everything else. But I really feel as though Veve is positioning themselves very strongly for the next couple of years. And, I'm sure you can attest to this because you were there and saw the preview as well. I really don't see anyone else in the space doing what Veve is doing with the Veveverse to the extent that they're doing it to. And that's not to take away from projects like Spatial, who, have definitely done well with the graphics and the integrations that they've had. That's not to take away from, Decentraland or Sandbox, but, I look at these projects and, looking at Decentraland and Sandbox that hit, $6 and $8 billion market caps respectively in 2021. And it just baffles my mind that they have, 65 people that are using Decentraland, and it has a multi-billion-dollar valuation. And, OMI is sitting at the same market cap of the amount of revenue that Veve is going to make just this year alone. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And the kind of, I know I'm on a tangent right now, but there's just so many thoughts that I have about all this, and I've been thinking about it. And like the only explanation that I have for kind of why all of this is happening is especially on the OMI side, anyways, like we just don't have the liquidity and the access in order for people to buy the token. And you also don't have a reason for them to buy it. But I feel like the OMI utility program is starting to solve that. And I'm looking forward to kind of all the integrations that we can get into with that as we speak about that further. But if we are able to get, a major exchange listing, and it needs to be the right major exchange listing, if we got listed on FTX, like we'd be in some trouble right now, right? So I don't know who the safest is right now in the space. Maybe you have an opinion on who you think the best would be, but if we're able to get a major exchange listing that has some security behind it, I think that just the trading volume that we'll see with OMI increasing in the subsequent market cap, to me, and I know it sounds crazy and people get mad at me all the time, but I just feel like for what's coming, OMI is just so undervalued. And now for what OMI is right now, maybe it's overvalued realistically. Like, yeah, it still doesn't have utility, and that's totally fine. So I'm not knocking on the fact that it's 000 right now. I picked up another million yesterday, going to probably pick up another million or two this weekend. So, I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be able to pick up at these prices, but it's just going to hit people like a Mack truck. It's just going to come out of nowhere, and people are just going to be like, how were we sleeping on this thing for so long? And, we'll see it when it happens.
I guarantee you everyone in like 2 years They don't credit us for our future sight. They just like, you're just lucky. And I will be
100%.
so heckin' pissed off when they say
I'm
that.
gonna be so annoyed. And I put out a tweet a couple months ago, and you know, it's like it's cool. Like, you know what, and this is a good platform to say this on. There's almost 100 people watching right now. You know, I I've made my opinions known about what I think will happen with certain things, with OMI price and whatever the case may be, and I've been 100% wrong. I was very much convinced that, you know, when we were ranging in the, you know, the 0.0012 to 14 range for, you know, 2 to 3 months, I was, you know, very convinced that we weren't going to see triple zeros. Now,
Yeah.
I sorry I didn't have the forethought to see that the second biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the world was going to completely go under and, you know, take a bunch of other people out with it. But, you know, that's what I get for making kind of definitive opinions about certain things. I never make facts, but, you know, it's just very interesting because, you know, people will knock you incessantly for being someone that believes in something, but when it gets to the time that what you believed in becomes a success, like you said, those same people are just going to say, well, you were just lucky. And, you know, and, and I'm actually grateful that we're going through this struggle right now. And I call it a struggle, but really, I think people like you and me just look at it as an opportunity. But I do feel for other people that maybe bought up higher, that don't fully understand things, haven't dollar cost average down, and maybe they're a little bit stressed out right now. But, you know, if you're taking advantage of the opportunities now, whatever that looks like within your financial means, and then the price goes back up, I just I try and be a very like politically correct person, but I'm not above rubbing it in people's faces. And it's because that's all that people have done for me for the last 6 months. And like, you know, I appreciate all the support that I get, but 100%, you better believe when that time comes, the receipts are already being saved. I got a folder for them, and it's going to be one heckin' awesome video. So.
That's great. You were talking before. It's funny that you mentioned collectibles, and I think that was kind of going into your price a little bit. I think yeah, the metaverse, but you know, will be a multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. But I forget what article it was the other day that mentioned that collecting in general will be a $1 trillion opportunity. They said by 2032. It was a little bit after the end of the decade. So I think Vivi's able to catch it twice. Obviously, Veveverse being a separate company than Vivi, I'm very very bullish on that. Another project is Feeshmas and Feesh. Your Feesh got airdrops. Everyone got coal, and everyone was like, "What the fudge?" And then what you could do on it is you can go and you can get you can grind that. You can sell it for clams, and clams is supposed to be like the currency in Feesh. So it's really wild. I got to do a video on it at some point. But it says goats are the future. I don't know if you saw anyone on there. I ran into a couple of silent whales. Marty Pants 187, who at the time had 333 lenticular Plutos, which is not, it's not like he had 300 Mighties, which are $10 each. They're over $100 each for each Pluto. So that's over $30,000. And he bought another few the other day and another 5 days. So he's over 340 now. And his goal is 400. And he's not the only whale that I saw. Did you run into any whales that you didn't know were whales?
Yeah, I've ran into a couple where, you know, I was standing beside them. We were talking about our collections, and oh, I have 2,000 collectibles. I have this, that, and the other thing. And it's really interesting to hear people talk about what they're collecting and how they're enjoying their fandom during these time periods. Because I think for a lot of people that have been around for, you know, since before the run up that we had in January, people are really looking at these as a, you know, these prices as a blessing in disguise. And, you know, it can be frustrating sometimes to see the prices, you know, substantially lower. Like I remember I was looking at my partner statue the other day, and I was like, hey, I remember that used to be 50 grand and now it's 3 grand. And like it sucks for sure. But like if you get the opportunity, I just pick up another one. And that's why I'm at 4 now. Right. So and then when we talk about the collectibles industry being a multi-trillion dollar industry, and you know, we look at, you know, people like this guy that's picking up the Plutos, you know, you realize it's not going to take a ton of people to really sweep up a lot of these collectibles that are available on the platform right now, especially at these prices. And so one of the first integrations to the OMI utility program is going to be crypto to gem. They were looking at having it out by the end of November. I have a feeling, because we haven't heard anything about it at all yet, we probably won't see it maybe until December, which is honestly totally okay at this point. I don't think a week or two is really going to change anything anyways, but I'm really excited to see the utility that brings in the sense of, you know, people will now be able to take cryptos like Bitcoin, Ethereum, USDT, USDC, maybe BUSD, whatever the case may be, and convert that into gems, which is just basically bringing in a ton of liquidity onto the platform that didn't previously exist. I think for a lot of people that have been in crypto for a while, their biggest issue is not wanting to, cash out their crypto, make it a taxable event, do all that stuff, convert it into fiat, have to worry about banks being difficult about them, onboarding extended amounts of money. Whereas crypto to gem is really just going to allow people to bring in funds, very quickly, just with a few clicks on the web app, and then you look at these prices right now, and especially with them integrating things like Know Your Business, we could see, lines of credit being extended to these big companies, and maybe someone like Visa who bought a CryptoPunk for, $700,000, they could come in and for that same $700,000, they could buy like 200 volts or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like they could just come in and just spend a ridiculous amount of money. Right. So, it's going to be really interesting to see how this happens. And similar to how we saw it in January, I think it's going to be one catalyst, and it's not going to be a gradual thing. I think it's going to come absolutely out of nowhere. Maybe not for all collectibles that have, more additions available to them, but those small kind of cap collectibles that are grails, like the secret rare Spider-Mans, things like that, they got like under 1,000 or less editions that are already kind of coveted, and people just don't have the liquidity to bring onto the platform right now. It's going to be really interesting to see what happens to those as the price just kind of shoots right up on them when people can start bringing money in.
So I had a little goal reached the other day. It was after you told us not to buy into the pump. I was like, too late. I bought into the pump, and so I got the 150. I think now I can like relax. That's like the last milestone I think that I could realistically achieve. I think 200 is way too much. I don't know where it would. It'd be prostitution, Chavez. Like I would make an appearance.
You know what? You deserve a round of applause, and I hope everyone in the comments right now is giving Randy his due right now. You can fault him for whatever you want to. He's a maniac. He's a savage. You can call him whatever you want, but the fact that he's been steadfast with his belief and the amount of commitment that he's put in to acquire his bag. Like I remember when, gosh, you had 40 something million, I think, when we first started interacting last year. And the fact that you've grown that to 150 million OMI is just, it's incredible, brother. I'm super proud of you. And I think what makes me even more proud is that I know that you're not just some like random whale who's going to look to manipulate the market and dump on people. It's like you've been working so hard so that you can give back. Like it's not even so that you can go live out a lavish lifestyle. Like you want to do a lot of charitable work. You want to, really give back to others. And so it's stories like that that are going to make me really happy to see the price of OMI just kind of skyrocket up and see people like you succeed. So, good on you, man, for hitting that goal. I agree. I think at that point, it almost becomes like, how do you set another goal? And so I'm kind of in the same boat right now. I'm sitting at about 45 million and I'm looking to get up to about 50 million. But then once you hit 50, it doesn't hit the same to be like, oh, I'm going to hit 60 or it's just kind of random. Like I'm kind of like round number kind of guy. So it's like, if I'm going to hit 50, I'm either going to hit 100 or I'm not. Right. And so,
69 is fine too.
You know what? I could go for the 69. I could try and do that as well, but, no, man, good for you with that. And, it feels like you're very ready for staking when that eventually does roll out. Are you?
Some Q3 next year. So what I want to do is I might get 1 or 2 million more, and I'll use that to I'll flip it early next year when we start to go up a little bit. Use that to pay for taxes a little bit and any extra funds. Like Decon was such a amazing time, but I felt like I didn't sleep a lot at all. Me and Taps did not sleep a lot and felt like I needed a vacation after that vacation. So I might go on a relaxing vacation at some point. I'm not sure what CoinSpot is, but Rick 13 says they asked them to get the fam to get them on the show. Support for waiting OMI on their Australian exchange. Cheers. So hopefully,
yeah. So I think it's like a crypto exchange out of Australia. So I think it's an Australian native crypto exchange. I think that's the cool thing about OMI as well, is like exchanges can also renegade list the token, right? So like they don't need, a formal contract or agreement in order to list the token. They can kind of just do it. And we've seen that, I think twice already this year with random exchange listings. So yeah, it's cool to see that the community is working to proactively put the word out there. So good on you for doing that, Rick. I think that's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And I was gonna say, I feel like you probably didn't get a lot of sleep at Decon because you were too busy spending time in the bathtub with Taps. Not that I noticed or was jealous or anything, but whatever. It's fine. I get it.
Okay, so me and Wes are sensing a little bit of salt there. Yeah, I don't know how I got him to agree to do that. I mean, he had to know what that would look like. Well, I waited till last night get him drunk. Like, hey, so part of the reason why we did that is because a lot of the women that are on my channel, Fam Bam, Wendy Stibalis, Sparky, and Brittany, and then Eva, but she wasn't there. We talked one day about like beauty and how like I was completely lost because I don't like exfoliate or do anything, and they're like, you don't exfoliate, so they wanted to do like a makeover night where they like did face makeup to me and stuff, and then we wound up not doing it, so they just gave me a whole bunch of stuff. I was like, hey Taps, so we got bubbles for this bubble bath. And he's just like, I don't know, Randy. So I waited till one night we were drunk. I was like, bubbles. And he's like, okay. So that's how it came to be.
You love it. You love it. You know what? I had never met Taps. Actually, there's quite a few people there that I had content creator wise that I had never met, and it was really cool to. I mean, it was really cool to meet the community, but it's also been really cool to meet the content creators, other people that I've been interacting with kind of over the last year or so, and kind of shared in this kind of common passion of creating content for the community. And it was just really awesome to meet everyone in person. Taps came up and gave me a big hug, and that was just awesome. That was really cool for me, and it's really cool because like people would come up to me and be like, "Hey, can I grab a picture or whatever?" Which to me still feels super heckin' weird. Like I don't get why anyone would want to do that, but like cool. Like of course, like you want to take a photo, I'll take a photo. You want to have a conversation, that's fine. But then like I also get it a little bit because like I look at someone like Taps and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh hi there, friend," and like it's just so cool to see people that you've been watching, or be able to have conversations with people like Jermaine Rogers. Frank Kozik followed me over the weekend on Twitter, which was absolutely awesome. That kind of came out of the blue, so that was really cool. Being able to chat with Dan and David at the event, and just kind of see the whole team. Met Puddin Cheeks FA for the first time, which was fantastic. It was really nice to see him, and I think it was really good too. I was going to make a standalone video on this, but I'm not as much of like a vlogger content creator. Like usually I'm just like, hey, here's numbers, guys. Like I don't really just go like, hey, here's my here was my weekend, because it doesn't do as well, and that's fine. But it was really cool to be able to bring my wife to Decon, and have her have the opportunity to meet everyone in the community, be able to meet the team and have conversations with them. I thought that was really awesome, and being able to kind of reflect with that with her afterwards, and kind of say like, hey, like, what'd you think about this? And I asked her, I said, be very, very honest with me. Like, did this make you more bullish after meeting everyone? Do you feel about the same? Are you less bullish now? And she's like, no, like very genuinely, I'm more bullish on the whole project, on the community. And she's like, she made a joke. She's like, it's really nice to know that there's actually other people out there that believe in this, and it's not just two people talking on the internet and no one's paying attention. And I was like, yeah, like the community is truly what makes this project such a success. And if you guys were at Decon and we were able to meet, it was awesome being able to talk to you. We didn't get a chance to sync up. Sorry to see that. We'll see you guys at the next one. And if you guys weren't able to make it out to the event for whatever reason, try and make it out to an event. It really does open your eyes to everything that's going on in the project, and just the energy there. It's incredible. No one's focusing on the fact that maybe they're up or down on their investment, or whatever the case may be. It's just a group of people who are just sharing in a common passion of collecting. And it's just really incredible to have been able to go to bowling, be able to go to Dave and Buster's, and just kind of hang out with people and interact with them as human beings. And you realize that at the core form, we're all just people trying to figure out this life on this rock together. And so it's so cool to be able to make so many new friends and connections over an event like this.
I think one of the things I'm most excited about is going to the Veveverse and basically having Decon every single day, like every single weekend, and because that negates the need for people to pay airfare and pay a hotel and Ubers and having food and drinks where I don't know how much a lot of the drinks were, but that type of thing I think will really help a lot of people's mental health, and I think it'll help a lot of people escape maybe some of the daunting realities that they face on a day-to-day basis. Almost like a TV show where once a week you can go and escape to this different world. Viewers will be able to go there all the time, and hopefully
Well,
people don't abuse that.
yeah, and you know what? And I think that as things start to kind of build out, like I think as an example, like you can do these live streams on YouTube, but like eventually it'll probably get to the point where like you're hosting your gathering in your showroom and you're just having a conversation with people and you're on like a big screen and it's your avatar talking instead of you. And other people come into your showroom to hang out with you and be a part of that experience with you. Maybe they'll come in to do a drop with you or whatever the case may be. I just think that the possibilities, with TypeScript and with having people in the community that are as creative as they already are with the lack of tools that they have. I think with all of these kind of editing tools and software and the technology that Dan and the rest of the team are allowing the community to use, it's going to be really incredible to see what people are able to kind of build out. And I'm really looking forward to the possibilities of where that leads us. It doesn't even have to be the best quality stuff in the world, although I think Vivi is crushing it compared to a lot of the others. But you look at a game like Roblox or Minecraft, and some of those are the most successful games in the world. And the fact that they're successful has nothing to do with the quality of what they are, but it's the customization of what that represents. It's just a common area for people to come together and build worlds and experiences that they can share in with the people that they care about. And I think that that'll be enough to really get the Veveverse launched off and with a lot of people coming into it.
So there's something else that I wanted to go over, which I think I would be very bullish on. I doubt it's greater than 0% chance that this happens. Now that Bob Iger is back at Disney and he's CEO, there's been several articles written about how he is a master of acquiring things and just a master of deals at large. What do you think the odds are of how they've increased percentage-wise, or if it's still an impossibility? Where a year ago, where there was rumors that Disney might buy Veve, I almost laughed at them because Veve had so many issues. But now that a lot of those issues are pretty much gone, and the fact that they are up and coming multi-billion-dollar entity, do you think there's a percentage chance? I say 3% chance that Disney buys Veve, or that Bob Iger maybe wants to do something a little bigger and merge Disney with Apple, and then Apple maybe buy Veve, because Apple would have the hardware for us to go on to.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an interesting consideration. What I will say is, it's not a percentage of whether or not it could happen. It's what's your time frame, right? So I think if you said in 10 years, what's the likelihood that Veve is acquired by Disney or another company? I'd put it 25, 30, even higher percent. You know what I mean? Like I definitely see that. But if it's the next 2 to 3 years, I don't see that happening. And it's mostly just because, there's always money to be made. Like there's always money to be made, right? And you look at take Mark Zuckerberg as an example, and you can think whatever you want about Facebook or him as a person and the rebranding, whatever. Jeff Bezos with Amazon. There was a time for Steve Jobs and Apple, all these companies. There was a time where these people could just sell and make billions of dollars, like no question asked, and just be done with it, go retire on an island somewhere and just be whatever. What separated them from everyone else that's created a business and then sold it, like Mark Cuban when he sold, his business for whatever it was, like 600 million, and then it became like PayPal or whatever it was, is you have to have the vision, right? So you can be a businessman to make money, or you could be a visionary who wants to just make the world a better place as you see it. And I look at David Yu and what he's already accomplished over the last 20 years with his business. He could always probably use more money, for sure to collect more collectibles. But I think the guy's probably doing all right for himself regardless, right? Like
Yeah.
he could sell the company, I'm sure, probably get a couple hundred million for it and just call it quits. But I don't believe, or at least I choose not to believe, that he got into this to make money. I believe that he got into this because he loves collecting more than anything else in the entire world, and he wants to see what he can make Veve, and he hopes to make it the biggest digital collectibles platform in the entire world. So, is there a time down the road where he's accomplished that already, where maybe he relinquishes control or sells a stake in it or whatever the case may be? 100%. I mean, the guy deserves to get paid. There's no doubt about that in the world. But I don't believe that anyone on the team is done building and is ready to relinquish control or give up their vision until they've completed it. And I still feel as though there's so many things left to accomplish that I don't foresee a scenario in which, at least in the next couple of years, they would do something like that.
That's fair. I understand that as well. What would you think might happen if, let's say, Veve was left out of the equation and Bob Iger decides to make it so that he is the last CEO of Disney because he goes to have them merge or be acquired by Apple? Do you think Apple says like, yeah, keep doing what you're doing? I think Apple might want to take over if that's the case and X out the partnerships they had with all that Disney had previously? Thanks on that.
I mean, it's definitely a possibility, but I don't know that. I mean, Apple is making their VR headset and glasses, and maybe I've just been completely out of touch with this, and maybe I don't know. But to my knowledge, like, is Apple focusing on making like a metaverse specifically for anything like collectible
I'm
related?
sure they've filed for it because everyone's
Maybe,
filed
right?
for
But
it.
like, but like for me, like I maybe a better example, like if Disney was acquired by Meta, right? Then okay, maybe Meta, who's building a metaverse and wants to have Disney collectibles in it, goes, okay, no, you can no longer have a partnership with Veve because we want you to have your collectibles moving forward on our platform. That makes sense. There's a logical kind of translation to that. What I don't see is Apple, who doesn't have that IP support to begin with, because or the infrastructure support, sorry, when it comes to the metaverse, to do that. In all likelihood, what would more so happen is Apple would buy Disney, and then they would also look at maybe acquiring Veve in that regard, because then they have the IP marketplace that's supported on, and they also have the IP rights itself, and then they could kind of build out everything. But I don't foresee. I mean, it's definitely a conversation. I think anything is possible, and I think we're naive, and I've kind of learned that over the last 6 months. Like, we're naive to believe that any situation is not impossible. Like, we can think like, no, that's absolutely insane, not a chance. But like, anything is conceivably possible. Like, tomorrow, David and Dan could announce, like, hey, we're selling the company. Like that, I don't see it. Like, there's nothing that indicates to me that that's happening. It's, logically, that I don't see the correlation, but it could happen. So I think anything is possible, and I wouldn't be surprised to find out that Veve had already probably received offers from companies, whoever they may be, to buy them out. Because I'm sure other companies see what they're doing, but to me it seems like they're kind of full steam ahead with wanting to create. And to me, what I more so see happening is, and you've kind of made a joke about this as well, like, what happens if Veve acquires Disney? And like, I don't actually think that that's going to happen, but there are scenarios in which Veve does, they buy design studios, they buy up and coming brand IPs, they make their own IP that becomes super valuable based on whatever. Because so I think that there's definitely options available from that, but we'll have to see how it kind of rolls out over time.
Maybe this is something we could bring up next time we see the Veve fam. Are you I know you're in Canada. Where are you? Near Toronto?
Yeah, I'm in Ottawa. It's about a 4-hour drive.
I don't know if that's necessarily near. I guess you could drive that. Can you fly that, or do people just like to drive?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could fly from Ottawa to Toronto. It's like a 38-minute flight, but like, why would I? It's a 4-hour drive. That's just like a quick rip down the highway. Like, why am I paying like $500 for a flight when I can just drive?
Gotcha. Wasn't sure. So that is where Veve is going next. David might do something in Singapore before then. But yeah, that seems like we're going next. Is that something you might go to?
Yes, and speaking of going to that, I'm not going to say their name publicly because that wasn't discussed, but I was hit up by someone who has offered to pay for your hotel room for the weekend if you come down to Toronto
I think I
for
remember that. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So he messaged me like 20 minutes before we went live and he said, "Make sure you let Randy know that I will pay for his hotel room and so we can convince him to come down." Now,
okay.
you might have already been coming anyways, but you know.
It's not in Toronto. Comic Con is in my calendar, but I don't have anything booked. I don't have anything, whatever. So if I do ask, I'll ask for. Well, would your wife come too, or is that something like? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the one kind of question mark that we have because she'll be um 8 months pregnant then. So she'll be due in less
Oh,
than 30 days. So I mean that's still pretty early. Like I don't think she's gonna give birth. And it's in Canada either way. So our healthcare system's like the same in Ontario, right? So
okay.
it's definitely possible. She has she has family in the GTA. So it is possible that she'll come down for the weekend as well.
Okay. I
I
was gonna
liked
say,
having her down there, so we'll have to see. It's really just going to depend on kind of how she's feeling at the time, and it'll be kind of more of a game time decision, kind of week of like, hey, are you feeling okay? And if not, I'll probably bring my buddy Mike, who you met in New York. We'll
copy,
probably go
copy.
down for the
Okay, so
weekend.
you'd get your own hotel room anyway.
Yeah, probably, or we might stay. My wife's brother lives in Toronto, so
Oh, nice.
we might stay with him and his girlfriend because they live right in the downtown core. So
Copy that. So
we might
I
do
don't
that.
have to worry about just getting a single or a double bed.
Well, I mean, if you get a single, I can still come into
What?
your room at night. You just give me the room key, and I'll find my way in. You don't need to worry about that.
Oh, we'll
So
meet each other in secret at the comic. I'm in room
yeah,
217.
that's it. That's it.
Oh, good times.
Yeah.
So that's, oh, maybe I won't bring that up. Okay, good times on that. We've had that huge buy. Kay did confirm that it was bought, the OMI. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
so whether that was somebody, apparently in that particular wallet, there was no OMI in that wallet. There was, I think, Illuvium, there was Immutable X, and there was something else. What does this tell you about other whales that might not be in yet? Does it tell you that, I mean, for me, it says like, dude, when Asia and like that Arab oil money comes in, it's gonna pop off. Or does it say that, wow, if it weren't for this whale spending seven figures, we might be down to 0005 right now? Do you think that is a sign of like weakness, or do you think that's a sign of things to come?
I mean, I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. So, firstly, when it comes to price action, and this is something I put out a tweet about this because this actually kind of bothered me. Most things don't bother me. I just kind of let them, roll like Taylor Swift, like shake it off, shake it. Most of the stuff doesn't bother me, but like when I read certain things, sometimes I'm just like, so, um, you know, there was a 7 billion OMI sell wall on OKX for
It was
like
seven.
yeah, it was like 7 billion total, like for like 2 weeks. And it slowly went down over time. Like no one really had an issue with it. No one really commented on it. It was, oh, we're in a bear market, everything's going down, it's fine, whatever. Did I lose you by the way? You're frozen for me. Randy? Randy? No, we've lost him, chat. No. Randy, come back to me. Guys, he's bought so much OMI, he can't even afford his internet bill. This is a disaster. You can still hear me. Okay, that's fine. As long as you can still hear me, I'll just keep going and your beautiful face will pop up when it pops up. Yeah, so people were talking about, wow, this just suddenly became my stream. How's it going, guys? Welcome to my chat. Real Randy Chavez. Say hello to Batman. Hi, Batman. Hi, Batman. Meow, 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 meow. So I kind of want to see if he gets it fixed before I give my thought. Oh, he's back.
Okay, all right. Sorry, you're saying.
Okay, no worries. So 7 billion sell wall. No one really made a big deal about it. It was what it was. We just accepted it. Market's down, FTX, whatever. Slowly started to get bought up on OKX. We were ranging, 0.0007, kind of whatever, and it was all good. And then out of nowhere, someone decides to drop, 1.5 mil US and buy up the remainder of the amount on OKX, which of course, removed all of the price suppression that had been happening for the last 2 weeks. And as a part of that, normal order flow was going through. So what people need to understand when you're looking at a situation like this is like, let's say we have $1 million a day in trading volume. That's buying and selling, right? Now, that could be a correlation of the price going down. It could be a correlation of the price going up. It could be a correlation of the price staying the same. But it's just $1 million total dollars in volume. If you have, a $5 billion sell wall, that's like 5 or 6 million US in sell pressure that needs to be overcome on top of any subsequent buy pressure in order to get the price to go up. So you would need a minimum of $5 million of just buy pressure in one day to make the price go up. So naturally, the price was going down because that was literally, with the amount of liquidity that we have, the only option for it to have happen. But then it was wiped because obviously someone who either is already a part of the project or is entering into the project saw the potential at these prices and picked it up. And then people started to call it price manipulation, which just made absolutely no sense to me. They're like, oh, there's a whale manipulating the price. And it's just like, okay. The coin has $500,000 a day in 24-hour trading volume. Someone just spent almost $2 million on the token. So if they were trying to manipulate a token, why would they pick a token that is completely illiquid and that they can now not sell? Because there's no trading volume in order to support that. Like, it's just a completely illogical argument, and I just couldn't understand it for the life of me. So I made some comments about it, or here or there. But yeah, to me, I think it's a bullish sentiment that whoever this person is confident in the project and what it's offering. People keep saying too, like it's inside information and whatever the case may be. Okay, if it is, so be it. We know crypto to gems coming out at some point. So like, if people think that that's a catalyst that's going to push it, I see some people, in the chat saying like, couldn't it be an exchange? It could be, but normally an exchange wouldn't manipulate the price like that. Like normally they'd use a market maker to kind of just pick up kind of little bits over time, or they would go to the team and say, hey, we need liquidity. Can we buy from your business development fund? And they would take tokens out of the business development fund directly. They wouldn't just jump the price 25% for an exchange listing. Like there's not really a reason for them to be doing that. Like it's not generally how that would go. So they're really just shortchanging themselves by raising the price, by trying to pick up the tokens because they're going to want to pick it up for the best possible amount. So I really just think it's a whale who's been around for quite a while, who sees the potential in OMI. I think Kay did a great video on it, breaking down the wallet. Seems like whoever this is bought Chainlink back in 2019. And it looked like they, made like, I think Kay was saying like $20 million or something on Chainlink. So, they've been around the block. They're not some small fish to begin with. This is someone who obviously had access to, liquidity for quite a while now. They've been making smart investment decisions, and, not to say that this is a smart investment decision per se, but I mean, they obviously see an opportunity here. And, if I had the means, I would probably be doing the exact same thing. So it wasn't me though.
Does it confirm that the 7 billion, like 5 billion of that was sold?
So I think that was just happening over time on OKX. Like I think the person was using like an order for flow bot, and they were just listing it as like the lowest transaction in a wall. And as people bought on OKX, it kind of disappeared over time. I didn't personally keep a super close eye on it, and I don't have access to OKX. So I didn't see if it was being filled kind of naturally or not. But I do know that the 1.7 billion or whatever it was a legitimate purchase. And I'm in a couple Telegram groups with people that actually trade and do things like that. And they seem to be indicating that it appeared that the amounts were being purchased on OKX. So I'll kind of defer to their expertise and say that, yes, that is what was happening. And the other thing about whoever that whale is, like, they're not going to be able to re-enter. Like, there's just no one else that has that many tokens that's going to be selling in order for them to have the liquidity to buy back in. Like that, whoever that was, there's a lot of speculation on who the seller was. It's probably someone that got wrecked on FTX or had some other stuff going on in crypto that needed to cover, margin calls or something else that was going on. And unfortunately, OMI was, something that they had to back out of their position on, even if they maybe believed in the project, because they just needed access to the liquidity because they were probably getting wrecked elsewhere with everything that was going on in the markets. So.
So thank you for the opinion on that. There has been some news, I think, dropped today that we are going to have uh, the first time I think would be a very important Star Wars character, and he's not going to be in three different positions. There's just one of him as a rare, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and then you have Reva, who is the ultra rare, and then you have some dude named like Maltaborn or something as a secret rare. And I'm not gonna lie, I watched Obi-Wan and I had to Google that person, and even Google did not yield any results. I swear, and I was like, what the fudge is that? So I don't know how many people are gonna go for that. Maybe that person will be a bigger character in the future, but yeah, it was. So you're not the biggest Star Wars fan.
I'm not the biggest. I mean, I do have the Darth Vader set. I didn't collect
The Boba Fett.
uh the no, so I had the Boba Fett set. I didn't collect the
Oh,
vehicles, the scythe and
yeah,
the
and
yeah,
TIE Fighter.
in the TIE Fighter. I didn't collect those yet anyways. I'm really in a position now where like I have a pretty good collection on VV. You know what
How
I
many
mean? And
sets do you
not
have?
119 or 120. And yeah,
Damn.
and like it's like all the Batman Black and White series. I have the Harley Quinn 19 set. All the Disney Golden Moments. I
Oh, that's amazing.
yeah, like I got a good. I've been very very fortunate. I have a good range of things on the platform right now, and I only have about I think it's like 350 gems left on my account. So I'm trying to
Mhm.
be very selective about what I go after because I'm really at the point now where if I do land something, it's strictly to flip to try and get more liquidity for something else that may be coming out. Um, that may change when OMI to NFT comes. I will start to take advantage of the arbitrage opportunities that come with, let's say, OMI pumps 20% and the collectible goes down 10%. Then, yeah, definitely use OMI to pick up a collectible. And then, as OMI maybe goes back down and then as the collectible goes up, you then sell that collectible for OMI and then you can make, a decent amount because you're not just counting on the fluctuations in one market, you're playing the fluctuations in both markets against one another. So you could really see like in a day, you could even see like 20, 30, 40% swings in profit, depending on what the liquidity is for the collectibles. So I'm looking forward to possibly taking advantage of those opportunities to continue to build up my collectibles as well as my OMI bags. But for me right now, the priority is kind of any extra money that I have right now goes into OMI. And when crypto to gem comes, I've been fairly vocal about it. I will be selling some, not all, some of my collectibles for some more gems, which I can then turn into OMI. Or if OMI to NFT comes, I'll be doing that directly to at least hit the 50 million, and then beyond there, we'll kind of just let the cards fall as they may and take advantage of those opportunities as they come.
I feel you on that. I want to bring attention to this comment. Because compared to real life collecting, even 60,000 prints is reasonable. That is mostly just in the USA and Canada, for example. Comics, they don't release worldwide. Veve is appealing to a bigger base, which I agree with they are, but some of these things, like the Obi-Wan Kenobi, they're releasing 4,000 of them. So when you had Darth Vader, which had, I think, 12,000 of just the common, not including what they had for the rare and the ultra rare, that's a lot for them, and it's not a lot for Obi-Wan. So I am curious to think that, do you think in the future some of these things that maybe aren't a big deal now, like maybe some of the Decon art or some of the things that just have I don't know less than 5,000 mints will become, I don't say grails, but will become very coveted items just because they'll have a couple million people on here?
Yeah, so I don't ever foresee a scenario where something is valuable solely based on scarcity. Scarcity is definitely an element that adds to value, but if I mint a one of one piece of turd, it's still a piece of poop, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of what I equate it to, right? When I'm making this analogy, and so I think what people need to recognize is that especially right now, like collect things because you enjoy the fandom that's associated with them. So if you like, one of the independent artists that was at Decon, you like Tara McPherson, you like Allison Baumcat, you like, whoever else, pick up that art because you want to support them and because you like those pieces. Don't pick them up because you think that they're going to, 10 or 100x in the next 6 to 12 months because it's just not realistic and it's likely not going to happen. I think a lot of people put a considerable amount of stake into the Master Collector program, and are just assuming that because they have a lot of sets that they're going to be, rewarded with the world. And I will admit, I was one of those people, especially when I first started collecting on VV. But as I've started to see more of the ecosystem roll out, I'm starting to realize that the Master Collector program, in all likelihood, and I could be wrong, but in all likelihood, is going to be something that complements your journey rather than being the exact reason for the journey itself. So what I mean by that is like, don't just go and complete every set just because you want to have more sets. Because sure, it will give you Master Collector points, which will likely give you access to the queue system to compete for other drops. But if you spend 6 months and $15,000 to $20,000 collecting all these sets, and then you wager all of your Master Collector points for one drop, you don't get those back. So, like, is that really the best use of your money? Like, I would rather focus on items that will likely withstand the test of time and that will have that value. I'm not going to name any specifically because people will say that I'm pumping them, but I'm sure you guys can figure out for yourselves what some of the bigger IPs are that are likely to withstand the test of time that also have the scarcity associated with them. And I think that for me, at least, like if I was to be focusing on something as a newer collector, or if I had some liquidity right now, like that would be what my focus is. And I'll give you guys a perfect example because I'm not buying it or selling it, so it is what it is. But like Superman as an example, like we saw Superman go up to like $8,000. Superman is an FA on the platform, only has 8,888 editions, and we've never seen like a second, a third, a fourth, a fifth edition like we've seen with Harley Quinn, Batman, all of these other characters. So Superman to me is like a sleeping kind of thing, right? Like no one's focused on it, which is just crazy because when you think about the fact that just the FA of Spider-Man has 60,000 editions and the common went up to like $1,200. It's like, it's insane that Superman is kind of just hanging out in the dumps. I own 3 of them. And I'm honestly like, if I was going to be picking up anything right now at these levels, I think it's like $400. And I'm like, man, like that's, and not to say that it can't go lower too, right? Like don't go out and buy it. Oh, Foster said it's whatever. And then it goes down. Like, but realistically, like stuff like that is the stuff that I'd be looking at like long term if I was looking to try and get an ROI, like probably something like that. Because it has that, an element of scarcity associated with it. It has the FA. It kind of checks off all the boxes that you're looking for. Definitely check out a Komi Wiki if you guys haven't already. Great resource. You can kind of see the historical data trends on the price action for these collectibles. You guys can go take a look for yourselves. Like, don't let me tell you, like, hey, this is good. Like, you guys can see it for yourself. Hey, this collectible used to be X and it's been trending at Y for this period of time. Like, maybe this is a good time to pick something like this up, right? And then, like Randy was saying earlier, like, him with his alligator Lokis, like, he owns a ton of them. Brock owns a bunch of them as well. And I think Ray Fixie or someone else owns a bunch of them. And, and then with other collectibles as well, you got someone collecting 400 Plutos. You got people that are collecting, certain posters and things like that. And you got other whales that are just collecting a bit of everything, your partner statues, your secret rare Spider-Mans, all your golden moments. If you guys saw OMI Daily Burns video breaking down the #1 VB collector wallet. So there's just really a lot of opportunity out there in the space right now. And so, if you have the liquidity, that's to me, the biggest issue to take advantage of these things is like, what do you focus on? Because realistically, like to me, the question is never, and people get upset when I say this on Twitter, but like long term, OMI is a better investment than VV. And then people go, "Oh, you're fighting the collectibles. We need VV to be successful." Like, guys, I have 7,000
collectibles. You have 117 sets.
Like Disney's gonna make one tweet about the collectibles. We're gonna have 10 million new users. Like, no one's listening to me, and then suddenly the collectibles go to 0. I'm sorry, it's just not happening. But realistically, like for me, investing in OMI is like investing in all of the collectibles. You're just banking on the VV platform being successful. But if you're to ask me right now, like Foster, I have $5,000. Should I buy, a Walt and a Todd, or should I buy 5 million OMI? I have no idea what Walt's going to do long term. I have no idea what Todd's going to do long term. I would probably buy OMI. And I know some people don't agree with that, but then you also have to consider, like, you're going to have to pay 10% fees to sell your Walt eventually when that time comes.
Yeah.
And if, let's say you sell it for 100 grand, you're just throwing 10K out the window. And then once you sell a collectible, you no longer own that collectible. So you either have the collectible or the money. Whereas with OMI, you can sell 10%, 20%, 50% of your OMI, and you still own OMI. So for me, like, that's interesting. But if you can land a $7 secret rare, Amazing Fantasy 15 on the drop, and then it's worth $15,000, for sure, that $7 is going to be better spent. So it's just about, allocating your funds, as best as you can within your means. If you're someone that can buy everything buy everything. If you're someone that can't, do the research, make sure that you're picking up those good items, and then when they pump, don't do what I did back in January and make sure you take some profit off the top. So
Same. Two things I want to bring. Three things. Four things. We'll start with this. West Coast guy talking about. Well, I'll just bring attention to the fact that the team has not sold any of their OMI tokens. I don't think they will for a long time. And even the business development fund, most of it will likely not see the light of day. So that's
it's an interesting question. I was actually looking at that just yesterday. Jason Colon, shout out to him. He's on Twitter. You guys can check him out. He puts out a lot of the statistics and charts about where OMI is right now, how many holders are at each level. And I was looking at his most recent data. Mind you, it's a month outdated, but it's probably still fairly accurate. And I was looking at the amount of GoChain OMI that's still on there. And two of the top three wallets are 30 billion and 30 billion. And those are the founder unlocks. So they're Dan's wallet and David's wallet, essentially. And both of those haven't even been converted over to ERC. So you couldn't even sell them if you wanted to. So it's really interesting to see that those are still on GoChain. And, there is the potential that they never convert them over, that they never sell them, that they burn them, or they just don't use them. Like
I mean, I get that. Yeah, Veve, let's say worth a couple billion, they get $1 billion, and they're flush with cash regardless. Like they don't need. And then let's say if they did need money, which they don't, but if they did, let's say minimum $2 billion, which is definitely worth more. Let's say $2 billion. If you wanted to raise, tens of millions of dollars, you just raise 20, you liquidate 1%, sell 1% of the company, and get 20 million, and just so they definitely don't need to use any of that, but I do think at some point they definitely should rightfully take what's theirs and sell a little piece here, sell a little piece there, and just
honestly, I think that they should. But even at a time when that becomes a conversation, and I remember because we've both been here for a while. I remember when the founder token unlock started, and people were like, "Oh, the founders are going to dump. It's going to happen. Here it comes." And every 3 months, it was the same conversation. And of course, it never happened, and never happened again, and whatever. It's just really it is a potential possibility that could happen at some point, but realistically, like when that would happen, it would likely be when we would have a major exchange listing and enough volume where they could sell into it without manipulating the price, right? Like if we had $100 million in 24-hour trading volume, them selling $2 to $5 million worth of OMI isn't going to really affect the order book. Whereas if they went to do that right now, it would just be an absolute disaster. So,
but I'm very hopeful that they go and take a well-deserved rest at some point. Which hopefully they're doing. They're not doing that. They have much work. They're not doing that now.
They're too busy working. I mean, realistically, and we saw it, throughout the entire Decon weekend. They'll take their breaks at night and whatever and hang out with the fam, but they're grinding from dawn till dusk, and I love to see it, and I hope that they don't get burnt out because it is a lot of work. But when you're working on something that you're passionate about, it's like it almost sometimes doesn't feel like work, and I can't wait to see kind of what they roll out with in 2023. They seem very, very excited about it. And I think they've learned their lessons about not overhyping things, like not overpromising and under-delivering. So I'm just really excited to see them kind of just drop things on us. Like, I don't know about you, but I didn't know anything about like a play to earn, play to burn video game coming out that they had designed for themselves that they had been working on for 18 months behind closed doors. And so it's just opportunities like this. It's like, wait, you've been doing this for 18 months and you didn't mention it at all? And then it's like, well, what else have you been working on for the last 18 months that you didn't mention? And like, last year they just stopped talking about the Veveverse and people were like, is it even real? And then it came out and out of nowhere, people were like, oh, wow, this is better than anything else in the space. Like, how did this happen? And I think that it's stuff like that where, coming into next year, they're just going to drop stuff on us. And it's going to be like, wait. Like
Lamborghini.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you've been working on this for how long? Like, it's just, I really, really like the approach that they're taking right now when it comes to their marketing and their communication. It's like we're just gonna, when it's ready, we'll hit you with it, and until it is, we'll just kind of continue the status quo, and people that are okay with that and are willing to be here through kind of the ups and downs will likely be handsomely rewarded, and the people that are not can move on to other opportunities, and that's perfectly okay as well.
Yeah, I would very much enjoy if they just same thing, under promise, over delivered, and outside of Lamborghini, we get another car next year. I mean, we have GM and we have Fast and Furious, so like we should have a bunch of these cars at some point in the future.
Yep.
Hoping for that. I don't know what I know. You said about an hour. I know we've gone a little bit over, so if you have to bounce, that is okay.
Yeah, no, that's cool. If you see any questions from the audience that you want to bring up, or you have any final things that you want to discuss before I take off, I'm open to it. I'm excited that we're getting back to doing this kind of stuff and having these conversations, and it's awesome. There's over 100 people hanging out with us right now, and I think it's incredible, man. I feel like the energy is starting to come back into the community. I think that even the people that, and not to call them fudders, like they're self-admitted people that maybe haven't been the most bullish on the project. Even them on Twitter, after the Veveverse reveal, were like, you know what, like, and kudos to them for taking their lumps and whatever. Like, hey, this is better than I thought it was going to be. Like, wow, Veve really over delivered on this. And then you hear someone like Kay, who I think everyone has their niche, right? Like, you're not going to come to me and talk to me about neurosurgery because I have no idea what anything to do with that, right? Like, I don't know anything. But like Kay, who's a software engineer, aka software engineer K, like, he understands technology, he understands all that stuff. So when I watched his video yesterday, and he's talking about the Veveverse and how he believes that they over delivered on what they were doing on their tech stack and all of this stuff, I was kind of like, you know what, like, this guy gets it, and if he's confident, why shouldn't I be? And that's generally how I gauge things. Is I'll look at the people that are knowledgeable in the space. I'll look at the experts. Like, this whale that has made tens of millions of dollars on crypto is buying 1.7 billion OMI tokens. What do they know, right? Like, why are they confident? And like, that gives me confidence, because that to me is a signal that people that are smarter than me and that have the means are putting their money where their mouth is. So why is that? And I think there's a plethora of reasons, but just objectively, why is that? And where do we go from here? And so I think that yeah, it sucks. The entire economy is down. Yeah, crypto's also in the dumps, and sure, OMI prices, and it's not $1 yet. Oh, influencers were wrong, and like, that's fine, whatever. But like, we're building in the right direction, and we're starting to see those hints again of people that have been very conservative, like people like Kay that have been always very conservative. Starting to say, you know what, I'm getting excited about this. Hey, I'm seeing the potential in this. You see people like Brock putting out tweets, hey guys, like, look at all this stuff we can do, in the metaverse now. And he's already building a ton of stuff as well. It's like, you know what, like, maybe we start to get a little cautiously optimistic. And I feel it. I feel it in the comments section. I feel it, in the energy in the community. And I love that we were able to experience that with so many people at Decon. And I hope that more people are able to make it out to physical events. I hope Veve ends up hosting a VeveCon at some point. Although, let's be honest, Decon was basically VeveCon. If you guys were there,
yeah.
But yeah, I think that would be really incredible. It's going to be fun times ahead, and no price predictions, no promises of time frames. I have absolutely no idea where we go from here. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you'll saw the joke that I put out earlier today. Price could go up, it could go down, it could stay the same. I have really no idea, and I also don't really care. I'm just going to keep picking up OMI at these levels, which is what I'm doing for myself. You guys buy collectibles, you don't buy collectibles, buy OMI, you don't buy OMI. Entirely your decision, but I'm looking forward to kind of seeing where this all takes us now that the foundation is finally being laid. And yeah, when we talk about it next time, we'll see what we've accomplished.
Absolutely. Foster, thank you for your time. Thank everyone for being here. Super chats as well. I love you all. Everyone say bye-bye to Dashi. Bye-bye, Dashi. Yeah.